This time in Goss's Garage, I want to tell you a few things that you may not know about tires. See, over the last few years, there's been a new part or a new system on cars called TPMS, Tire Pressure Monitoring System. And a lot of people take this to mean that they no longer have to check their tire pressure. Well, TPMS uses a sensor such as we see here. We've actually cut this wheel apart so you can see how it fits into the wheel. And then what you see on the outside is where you put the air into the tire. Well, the fact of the matter is with these that TPMS doesn't tell you the optimum pressure for your tires. It only tells you when the tire pressure in your tires is at a critical level, something that could be dangerous. So you might be riding around on tires that are wearing twice as fast as they should, but the light never comes on. You never get a warning because the pressure is not down to the point where it is critical. Now, the next thing with these is that you have to remember that they need some maintenance. So one of the things that you want to do, you may be inclined to put a nice looking cap on the end of them, preferably a metal one. Don't do it because the metal will get contamination and moisture and stuff between the metal cap and the aluminum end of the sensor, and the aluminum end of the sensor will actually disintegrate. You go to take the cap off and the whole thing falls apart, so not a good way to go. You can also use some silicone dielectric grease on them to help prevent this, and always use plastic caps. All right, so we have these things. They tell us when our tires are dangerously low, but they don't tell us everything that we need to know. So we need a good tire pressure gauge. We need to check at least once a month manually with a gauge. And if you want to get something that is really, really accurate and you want the best tire wear and so on, well, right here is what you get. You get an electronic gauge like this, going to cost you anywhere from $50 to $100 depending on the features that it has, but they are highly accurate and do a really good job. They're easy to use as well. Now, the next thing about tire pressure monitoring systems is that they from time to time need to be reset. Now, that may be when you rotate your tires or after you have a flat or something like that. Now, the most basic reset tool is this one right here. This is nothing but a magnet that you put around the valve stem on the outside of the tire. Pretty old school, and it only works on some of the older systems. Newer systems, you have to use this particular unit right here to reset them. Now what you do is with this cable disconnected, you hold this up against the tire and you tell it to read the identification number of the sensor in that tire, and then you tell the tester which tire it is. Is it right front, right rear, left front, or left rear, or spare, because some cars have these sensors on the spares. Then you plug in this cable, and you take this part and you plug it into the interface under the dash, the same one where you read computer codes and so on, and then you upload the information from the tester into the car, and that tells the system where the tires are and what the identification numbers are and all this stuff, so it knows when there's a low tire pressure warning. It can tell you which one it is. All right, so much for that. But another thing that we find here in the shop, we get cars that come in and people don't know that there's a proper way to repair a tire. They come in, they got a nail in the tire. Like this one, we got a tire that's got wonderful tread on it, had a nail in it, and it was driven for a very, very short distance. So all the customer wanted us to do was to put a plug in the tire, and he wanted to go on with life. Well, we don't do it that way. See, there's only one way to actually plug a tire, and that is to break the tire down, take it off of the rim so that you can look inside it. And that's what we insisted on doing, and the guy said, well, okay, go ahead and do it. And when we got this tire demounted, well, here's what we found. That the tire pressure had been just low enough. It wasn't flat, it was still drivable, but the inside of this tire was just shredded. Now, had we done it with the business of pushing the plug in from the outside and going on down the road, he would have been in serious trouble. As a matter of fact, here's some of his tire that we took out of the inside of it. That's how badly chewed up it was inside. So, only way to patch a tire is to demount it and check the inside of it to make sure that it's still a viable tire and it's still safe to use. We see a lot of them like that. Tread is beautiful, but the inside is all torn up from being driven on lower than recommended pressure. The other thing that you might find is that you're in a jam and you need to pump up the tire some way or seal it or do something with it as an emergency thing. Well, there are various types of sealants out there. Make sure that the sealant that you use is safe for the tire pressure monitoring systems, because all cars since 2007 have them. It is mandatory. So make sure that it's safe for the sensors, because you're going to put this chemical, this sealant, into the tire through the sensor, because the sensor is part of the valve stem. So you got to make sure that this isn't going to clog up your sensor, and then you're going to have a warning light, and you may have to replace a sensor that could be $150 or $200. So make sure that whatever you use for an emergency sealant, well, that it is safe for the sensors on your car. And if you have a question or a comment, drop me a line right here at radio@goss-garage.com.